Welcome to the Freelance Musician Podcast, the podcast to encourage, inspire and support you on your freelance journey. I'm your host, Hannah Mitchell-Harrison. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Freelance Musician Podcast. Today I'm chatting with professional flautist Clare Childs all about her transition from music college into pursuing a music career. We talk about her 5 years playing with the Royal Northern Sinfonia and why she then chose to pursue a freelance career and what that has looked like. Clare is also a mum of twins, so we chat about how she manages to juggle both being a parent and a freelance musician. And we also discuss a recent project that Clare has set up, which is now giving help and support to people who are unwell, vulnerable or lonely during lockdown. Hi Clare, thanks so much for joining me on the Freelance Musician Podcast. Really excited to have you here and looking forward to hearing all about your freelance journey.
Hello Hannah, nice to see you. Well, to see you and hear you.
So, really excited to talk about how your kind of career has progressed and changed since you've left music college. But first of all, take us back like before then. How did you come to be drawn to music and the flute as your instrument? What did that look like?
I think it's a slightly classic story that I saw an older girl at school with a sparkly silver flute, and I was like, wow, what's that? And nagged my parents for many months to want to start learning, and they did agree eventually. It wasn't just a phase, and they hired me a flute, and we got a teacher called Edith Van Spool, and she was absolutely phenomenal and just inspired me from like day one. And yeah, the rest is history, really. That's how it all started.
And was your family musical, or were you like a one-off in that area?
My brother played a little bit. My older brother, he started the clarinet, and we both played piano. But my parents weren't musical at all. But they wanted to encourage us to do it if we were interested in that, and both of us were. So yeah, I did quite a lot of when we were older, like wind and jazz bands, like going along with my brother, which was quite nice as well.
Yeah. And then, so did you go to was it just kind of a normal school, or did you go to specialist music school? Kind of what happened growing up?
So I stayed at my state school, and when I was looking into whether I wanted to kind of do it as a profession, it was suggested to me by Louise Matthew, who was my teacher at the time, that maybe it would be a good thing to go and audition at a junior department. Because I live in Hertfordshire, it was so close to it was a really good option for me. So yeah, that was my Saturdays from 15 to 18. I used to go up to London and yeah, just spend the whole day with people who had obviously very similar interests to me, and then Monday to Friday I'd be back at school and in normal life and the music department there too. But yeah, it was a good balance for me.
And it's great, isn't it, with those junior schools, it exposes you to performing like from a young age, and you kind of got all those experiences already, which I think is great if people can do that. So then you went to music college, is that what happened?
Yeah, so I went from junior Guildhall to main Guildhall. So yeah, I did all my auditions everywhere, and when I got my place confirmed at Guildhall, I was just over the moon. That's where I wanted to be, and I knew the building well, and I knew it just had a good vibe for me, and I was really excited to go. So yeah, I started there for my undergrad, and then I did an Erasmus exchange to Paris for 6 months in my fourth year. And then I came back and did my fourth year again because I was in Paris a bit longer than I thought. And yeah, so I completed my degree over 5 years instead of 4.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Paris is amazing. That must have been great to be there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's an amazing place to live and just experience, even as a student. But yeah, it gave me a lot of hours free to do a lot of practice. And yeah, I think it was good to do.
Yeah. So then going out of college, did you have like a set goal for what you wanted to do, or were you just kind of figuring out as you went along?
Definitely figuring it out as I went along. I think I had a bit of an epiphany, maybe not in a good way, but maybe in my third year, that it's quite difficult to leave music college after 4 years and walk straight into a job. I'm not saying it's easy in every industry, but I suddenly realized that that was quite a difficult task, and what would I do? So I was definitely trying to find my feet, but I had taught all the way through music college, so I had that kind of set up ready to keep going, as I left my studies. And it was just a case of amazing advice from my teachers and amazing support from them as I was kind of finding my feet of how it all worked, and just applying for anything and everything that came up. So I did a lot of auditions abroad. Didn't play particularly well in quite a lot of them, but I think that's all part of auditioning, like learning how to do it. And probably 6 months after I graduated, English National Ballet job came up, and a Northern Sinfonia extra work audition. So they were my first two like more successful auditions, where it led to more extra work, and just kind of got me into the kind of orchestral scene anyway.
Yeah. And so then did that get you a permanent job?
Yeah, so about a year after that, Sinfonia offered me their principal piccolo and second flute job. So I started there in 2007, and I was there for 5 years. Yeah.
Amazing. And what was that like?
I loved it. It was, it's a brilliant orchestra. It's now, since I left, it became more posh. It's now the Royal Northern Sinfonia. But, when I was there, it was Northern Sinfonia, and we were based up at the Sage Gateshead, which is just an incredible building. It's such an amazing place to have as a home for an orchestra. And we just had quite a relaxed schedule. We toured and did some amazing tours to Hong Kong and South Korea and around Europe, and really lovely people, a very tight-knit orchestra because it's quite small, because it's a chamber orchestra. And back to my roots in the northeast, which was lovely, where my parents are from. I had an amazing time there. After about maybe 4 years of being there, I started to kind of maybe pine for bigger symphonic repertoire, and the job was getting really a lot busier. So that was kind of the reason it took me. It was a lot of thought. I think I thought about it for at least a year, and I decided to go back to my freelancing to just have a bit more variety. So I left there in 2012.
And once you left, did you regret that decision, or was it the right one for you?
It always felt like the right decision. I was so sad to leave. My last concert, I think I just spent the last page of music just crying and not actually taking notes. But because I was leaving an amazing orchestra and such a lovely group of people. But it's felt like the right decision for me. I did it while I didn't have any responsibilities. So like it was before I had children, and Dom, who is now my husband, but at the time was my boyfriend, he was moving back from Germany, and it just seemed like the right time for me to be back nearer London and go back to my freelancing. I was doing a little bit of it alongside my employment up there. It was just to kind of take the plunge and see how I got on just freelancing without that kind of secure position. So a bit of a risk, but I definitely think it was the right decision for me at the time.
So then when you left the orchestra, how did you go about finding the freelance work?
So because I'd kept a little bit of it going, I kind of got in contact with the people that I knew and just kind of informed them of my change of from going from being employed back to freelance, to kind of inform them of my move. I guess it was just a case of, I did have a bit of work lined up. So I remember I left my job and I went straight away into a 3-week tour. And actually that was quite a nice security. It was just like, I'm not going to do one gig and then sitting at home really worried about it. So I went straight into a longer tour, which I had great fun at. And then it's been obviously quiet at times, as most freelancers find it, but it's built up over time, and as more people got used to the fact that I was in London more permanently, it just started to build back up, which was great.
And were you still primarily looking for orchestral work, or did you branch out into other things as well?
So when I was in Newcastle, I always kept my teaching going in Hertfordshire. So I still had that to go back to. I used to commute up and down for patches of work. So I still had my teaching to come back to, and I've always I've done admin work for YMSO, Young Musician Symphony Orchestra. I've done that for now 15 years. So I had also had that, which I used to do on the go. So I didn't feel like I was going back to nothing. I had like that to start with, and then it was kind of having to add to it as much as possible.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, because I've been talking a lot with people about the importance as a freelancer of having a portfolio career and having lots of different things that you do. So if one thing disappears, you've still got others.
Yeah.
But obviously you were in a permanent job in an orchestra, but you still had other things going, which then worked well for you when you chose to come out of that job. So there is still that mindset, even when you have a permanent job, that it's good to have other things on the side going. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think even in the orchestral world, I think people who do have a permanent position, they're always either working with other orchestras, doing smaller projects like chamber music, and a huge amount of orchestral musicians teach as well. So yeah, I don't know anyone who just does like their one job as a musician. I think it's always, you're fingering a lot of pies and doing lots of different things.
Yeah. So how do you find out about orchestral opportunities? If somebody sort of was wanting to do that, where do you look for those things?
I always looked on the website musicalchairs.info. That always had, well, it still does. It currently has every vacancy worldwide. So whether you're auditioning and you want to go somewhere and have a change of scene, or just apply to somewhere different, all their jobs come up on there. And all the jobs in the UK do as well. So that was my first port of call. I would just used to check that fairly regularly and then apply for anything that came up. I mean, applying and getting an audition are not always the same thing. There's always budgets and time for orchestras, and they might only have one day of auditions or whatever too. So, but it's still worth applying for everything and just seeing if it takes you anywhere, because you just never know.
Yeah. And what's it like doing the auditions? I mean, it must be quite a lot of pressure, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody goes into an audition and feels totally calm and cool about it and not bothered. I think everybody goes in feeling quite apprehensive or nervous, and that's totally normal. And also, you're normally sat behind you will be sat a panel of people who've also been in that position. So you're never going into an audition with people who don't understand that anxiety side of it, or how much pressure there can be to perform in just a short space of time.
Yeah. And so what's it like as like touring with an orchestra? Because it sounds very glamorous, you're in one place, then you go to another place, and it sounds very exciting. But I'm guessing it's not quite as glamorous as it sounds.
Yeah, it depends on the tour and how far away you're going, because if you do a long distance tour to the Far East or to America or something like that, you'd have more time because you need recovery time to get into a new time zone. So you normally have a bit more time to have a little look around. And obviously, if you're based in a place for a few days, you'll have more free time. Like Northern Sinfonia did a tour to Hong Kong for a week in their festival, and we didn't work every hour of every day, so we had a lot of time to explore all around Hong Kong, which was amazing. Tours where you're moving every day are very tiring, because you can end up doing a concert till late. And often some of the concert times can be 8-9 o'clock at night. So if you're doing a Mahler symphony, you're finishing at like 11:30 or something like that, and then you might be up at 6 to then get a flight to another place to do the same again the next night. So that side of it can be quite tiring, but it's also fun too. It's a nice way that everybody is in the same boat. No one has the pressures of the working out things at home and travel and everything. It's like you are in it. It's very nice to be given a tour schedule where everything is being planned for you. So your travel, your hotel, how you get from A to B is all mapped out for you, which is quite a privilege.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have holidays to have
that. Yeah. Rather than having to handle all the logistics yourself.
Exactly.
I can't imagine though having to do a concert still struggling with jet lag, because I know when I go to Hong Kong or somewhere in the Far East, it takes like a week to get over to
Yeah.
feel like I'm fully functioning like normal, and to have to play when you feel like that must be really difficult.
I think, I guess you get used to it a little bit, and normally there's time to rest. So you just have naps at random times. So, like, say you've got a morning rehearsal, and then you could have lunch, and then you've got a couple of hours off. You might just have like a quick power nap just to make sure that you're on form. And bananas are the winners every time. You just, if you're feeling a little bit under energy,
Yeah.
and it might get you through the first half, and then see how you feel at the interval. You're only talking about performing for maybe, depending on the piece you're in, or if you're in the whole concert, up to 2.5 hours. So out of the whole day, it's not a huge chunk. It's just making sure you're on form for that time.
So would you say that being an orchestral musician and getting orchestral work, does it just depend solely on your ability as a musician, or are there other factors that come into play around that as well?
I'm sure there's other factors as well. Obviously, to make sure that you're up to standard, and that you've learned the music and you're playing your part as well as you possibly could, and that it fits in well with your section, is probably the most important thing. But you do spend a lot of time with your colleagues. So going on tours and, going into London for a morning and an evening, you're with your colleagues at a huge amount of time in the day. So I'm sure, being friendly and being kind doesn't go too I think it goes hand in hand, just to make sure you're supportive to your colleagues, so everyone feels comfortable when they've got high pressure concerts to do.
Yeah, it sounds like common sense, but I think often people think, I want to play in an orchestra, I have to be amazing at my instrument, which obviously is an important thing, but you also need to think about the other aspects that will be taking place as well. You need to be a nice person, you need to be reliable, you need to turn up, and all those kind of things, I would imagine, are taken into consideration as well, for that kind of role.
I guess I've had to learn how to be quite flexible, that through nobody's fault, you can often turn up, well, not often, but occasionally turn up at a rehearsal and somebody might not be there, whether it's illness or a bit of an error with timings or whatever it is. And sometimes you might end up playing a different part, you might be doing something not quite as you thought, or so I guess it's about being fairly flexible as well. Hugely punctual. I don't know any other industry where you have to be as on time as we do.
So important, definitely. So you mentioned that you are now a mum, so not just one but two gorgeous twins.
Yes.
So how has that been, kind of transitioning into being a mum and then balancing that with freelancing?
I mean, fairly crazy, I would say. It doesn't just start on their safe arrival either. It starts during the pregnancy. So
of course.
And even before then. So it has a huge effect on your career. I didn't feel well for 8 months. So whilst working, I was also sick every day, and really super tired. And I just remember so many moments where I was doing something that I absolutely enjoy, but sitting in an opera pit, and then all the lights go off and it's like 7:30 p.m. and I'm like, I'm really tired. And then having to be like, no, Claire, look alive, you need to stay with it. And just that side of it, knocked me for six a bit while I was pregnant. But the reason why it was possibly worse was because I was carrying two babies, and it's often common for you to not feel particularly wonderful. But so when they arrived, I stopped playing probably 5 or 6 weeks before they arrived. Maybe not that long, maybe 4 weeks. I don't know, it's not that important, but maybe 4 weeks before they arrived. And I stopped teaching about 10 days before. I was finding playing really tricky as a flute player because I couldn't read for very long. So my last couple of concerts, I was like asking people to play a note a bit longer because I knew I couldn't get there and things. It was getting to that. So I thought, no, it's definitely time to stop. And then I had 6 months off work. And being a freelancer, I wasn't obliged to go back at a certain time or anything, but I got offered some opera work, which worked quite well because it was very spread out. So I kind of had to gear myself up for these first 2 days of work rehearsing, and then the performances were all evenings. But yeah, I mean, it's very different to work before, especially with very young children, like 6-month-old twins. And yeah, I was feeding them, so I was expressing at work in breaks and all that side of it. But everybody was always super supportive, and people would bring me lunch and make sure I was all right and had enough to drink and all this kind of thing. So yeah, and then it's coming back from work and making sure babies are okay and do they need feeding again before you go to bed. So it's just very different. They've just turned 2, so I've been working a lot more in the kind of next year, so between like 1 and 2. So I've just kind of gradually started building up or feeling I can accept more freelance work, and even done some touring away from them, which has
really?
been different, but also very enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just I guess freelancers were used to being flexible anyway, so I guess you just have to extend that and do what you can to make it work. And obviously your children are your priority, so you will fit the freelancing around that rather than the other way around, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on your situation and childcare issues, and if you have any family support nearby and all of those things. And it's just trying to muddle your way through until it kind of works for you, and then you kind of find your feet, find your rhythm, and you get back into it in a different way.
Yeah, amazing. So you've recently started a new project, Sing from the Heart, I think is what it's called. Yeah, so tell us about that, how it came about, what it is, and what that's been looking like.
So slightly long story, but I'll try and keep it brief. So yeah, my mum became unwell when my twins were very small, so she had a cardiac arrest when they were 4 weeks old. A very difficult time for our family, but she did come through it, but she wasn't quite right, and we couldn't quite put a label on what was going on. And 6 months later she was diagnosed with vascular dementia, which then, as we started to learn about that illness, we realized how long this had been going on for and how affected she was by it. So the one thing my mum can remember is every lyric to every song she knows. So
it's amazing.
When she's really struggling communicating, especially now, it's like words have dropped out of her head. She just can't put her feelings into a sentence. And then I'll play a song and she'll just sing the whole of like My Favorite Things or something like that.
Yeah.
And she knows all the words, and she knows all the nursery rhymes for my children as well. So as we've kind of been dealing with this as a family, I felt helpless a lot, and I wanted to do something that would help her and other people who were in the same situation. And I got in contact with one of the local care homes, and they have an activities coordinator, and she was really keen for me to come and maybe try and do a sing-along. So that's why I set it up and where I set it up. And so we started that in September, having a theme, and just about 14-15 songs, all in that theme, and I'd do song sheets for all the residents there, and we opened it out to the wider community, so any other care homes who had residents who were able to come could come, and anyone in the community who was affected by dementia could also come, or anybody who just wanted to sing song. Really, it was for friends of people in the care home and many people. And that kind of started to evolve a little bit as I used to bring my twins with me with help from friends, and the residents at the care home absolutely loved them. So then I changed it slightly into a format where we do some songs and then sing some songs to the children, because actually a lot of the nursery rhymes were really, especially knowing my own mum, she knew every single word to the nursery rhymes. We could sing those to the children, and then we'd do another kind of set of songs at the end. So that was all going really well until lockdown. So I did one at the beginning of March, and I was due to do another one the week after, and obviously it got cancelled. And about 2 weeks later I did one outside the care home, so I wasn't near anybody by meters and meters, but I had a speaker and the keyboard set up and a microphone, and we did the sing song from there, which was nice. But it felt very different because obviously I was nowhere near the residents as it had to be. And then since the care homes have been even further in isolation, that wasn't going to work. So I've been doing them all online. So I'm just recording the songs, many of the favourites that we used to do, adding the lyrics to them, which took me days to work out how to do that, but I can now do that. And just putting them online on the Facebook page or on a YouTube channel, so people can just start to use them as a tool, whether they're a carer or a family living with dementia, or for people in isolation who are quite cut off. So if they enjoy a bit of a sing song or want to listen to a song, they can join in and kind of sing along. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
And it's great because obviously it's not great that you can't go to the care home, but by going online, you're able to reach a lot more people. And I think you've been having quite a lot of people viewing the videos. Just
I was kind of
putting
slightly
them
blown
online.
away by it, because I've been doing those videos, and on top of that, as we have all been doing, going out to clap for our NHS and carers and key workers every Thursday, and we've started to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow every week as a street. So all the children who play an instrument in the street I do a Zoom call with, we've learnt it and we play that, and then one other song. So that's been a kind of tradition as well. So I've been putting that on the Facebook Live, and even our V-Day street sing-along that we had. And so far we're up to like nearly 37,000 views since lockdown. It's a little bit mind-boggling that many people would want to watch it, but there's a lot of dementia support groups on Facebook and a lot of care support groups, and I just share it to those pages, and it seems to be going fairly far and wide at the moment. But if it's helping people, that's my absolute, the whole point behind it.
Yeah, and I think it's lovely because obviously you were in this position like most musicians where you've lost all your work for the foreseeable future, but there's still something that you can be doing using your music to help other people, while all this is going on, which I think is great. And it's great to see how many people are doing that. Yes, the work has disappeared for now, but there are still things that we can be doing, using our skills as musicians to kind of help other people in this situation.
Yeah, hugely. And I mean, I am not a singer, and I'm not so I'm slightly aware that some of these videos are online. I'm like, but it's fine in their care home because it's an informal thing, and it's not about if I'm talented. It's about just bringing everyone together and just getting the songs that they enjoy. But yeah, it's helped me deal with this lockdown situation as well, because from a personal note, families living with dementia during lockdown, it's a million times harder than it ever was before. And then as a musician, like, my whole career has stopped, and I feel very worried about that. And it is a way of me coping with it as well. I can do this, it's helping people, and it's something musical, and I'm quite enjoying putting them together. Now I know how to add the lyrics.
That's a good skill to have learnt, though. That was coming useful.
3.5 days, I nearly threw my computer across the room. But now I know how to do it. I can do it in like 45 minutes, one song completed.
That's amazing. So if somebody was leaving music college now and they wanted to be a freelancer, obviously we can only give advice based on what we know pre-COVID, because we don't know how the music industry is going to look as we come out of this. What advice would you give to somebody coming out who wanted to freelance as an orchestral player?
I mean, firstly, I do really feel for any students who are graduating at the moment, because my heart breaks for them of having to graduate during lockdown, where everything stopped and finals are off and all sorts, or they're online. I really kind of sympathise with them. But I hope that it's also inspiring them to do more online things, which, as you said, isn't a bad tool to learn, and just to be a bit more versatile, that as we have to be as musicians. I mean, I was always told just to absolutely go for everything, like whether, so me coming out as a flute player from music college, it was just auditioning for every orchestral job, applying for every chamber music competition, putting chamber groups together, I did my music admin work, I did my teaching, and there's people who are much more skilled than me can do the composing and arranging, and there's just so many things where I feel like any musician has to have their finger in a lot of pies. So it's about working out what your strengths are, what you're good at, and just absolutely applying for everything. And I'm sure at the moment, even in the lockdown situation, there's lots of like masterclasses and lessons they could, if it was me in that position, like graduating at the moment, I'd probably use the time to be at home and kind of have lessons with people I never would have thought of having lessons with, who might be available because they're not super busy working, they're at home, and they might be online lessons or masterclasses or tutorials or anything like that. But yeah, I guess it's just a case of having your finger in a lot of pies and just coming up with lots of creative ways to sustain a career in music.
Yeah, such good advice. I think that's so key for freelancers is, being able to do a lot of things and turn your hand to a lot of different areas so that you can build up a career that I guess stands the test of time and, can ride out things like this that come along and cause a bump in the road. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been so useful and interesting to chat through. If people want to follow along with you, where can they find you at the moment online with what you're doing?
So all my sing-alongs are under Sing from the Heart. So on YouTube, it's just, if you type in Sing from the Heart, they're on there. And on Facebook, it's under Sing from the Heart Harpenden, where I'm from. So yeah, there's lots of videos. And if there's anyone out there that it might help, if they want to send it to a family relative or friend that it might benefit from, then that's the whole point behind it. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. This has been great to chat. And yeah, we'll speak again soon, I'm sure. Yes, thank you very much for talking to me. I find it so interesting having a behind the scenes look at what life as an orchestral musician looks like, because as a pianist it's not something that I've experienced directly. And it's also great to receive yet another reminder of the power of music in reaching out to people and providing a source of comfort. If you know of anyone who would appreciate Clare's sing-along videos, do find them on YouTube or Facebook. The links are in the episode notes. And if you're a musician interested in pursuing a freelance career, I have a free mini email course that will help to get you started. All you need to do is sign up at bit.ly/the freelance musician and it'll land straight into your inbox. That's bit.ly/the freelance musician. The link is in the episode notes. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Freelance Musician Podcast. I'll see you next time.